Kislev versus High Elves is a matchup that continues to intrigue me. Today I've got a replay from A Move Hacker. Going to be facing off in a scrappy domination game on the Mountains of Morn map. KATARIN, the Ice Queen, leading the way with a Tsar Guard up front and a couple of little Groms. We've got some Streltsy scattered around as well. And looks like 3 Streltsy and a couple of Horse Archers. Very decent choice. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. For ALARIELLE's side here, she's got 3 White Lions plus a Spearman here, with 2 more White Lions, one of them being the Regiment of Renown Curemain Company with a couple more Spearmen, and a Sun Dragon out in the distance. Let's look at the reserve armies. For Kislev's reserves, they've got 2 Griffin Legion, 1 Tsar Guard with great weapons, 2 regular Tsar Guard, 2 more Streltsy, 2 Snow Leopards, and 1 Horse Archer. For the High Elves reserves, a couple of Silver Helms, a couple of Shadow Warriors, Buff and Sea Guard with shields, 1 Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, some Rangers, and some Lyrian Reavers, plus 1 Spearman. And now we're back at it. So, quite like the pick of the Horse Archers here for a number of reasons. They are a great hybrid unit, very comparable in terms of stats to something like an Illyrian Reaver Archer. Instead of having the martial prowess kind of melee attack, melee defense stat buff, we've got the Buy Our Blood passive, which situationally can be very, very strong for them. But let's see how it continues to go here. The Horse Archer is going to kind of vanguard up, take a bit of a position here, maybe take some pot shots at that Sun Dragon. Speaking of pot shots, Little Grom raining some hell on these White Lions here as they get kind of bunched up as they go around these choke points. They took a significant amount of damage. Oh man, the halves of a few elves just kind of hanging around there. Meanwhile, over here, we've got some more Horse Archers in play. The Streltsy are coming up, getting ready to set up on the docking section on the cliff. You can, of course, actually dock your units here, and they will be able to fire down with their long range onto this objective, but there is a lot of High Elves coming in. White Lions are just generally a unit that's problematic for Kislev due to the fact that they have good missile resistance at 30%, a decent armor-piercing damage, so they can cut through any Kislev armored infantry. Their stats are also high enough that even like, you know, Kossars with weapons aren't going to trade efficiently in melee. You really need something like Tsar Guard with great swords, but let's see how it goes so far. The fire of the Horse Archers there mostly ineffective. Got some Reavers coming around to pressure. Looks like some Tsar Guard weapons are going to be brought out here as the Little Groms now turn to fire down this alley here. They're going to get some brutal side shots through these White Lions here. They'll have to do a lot to pay for themselves. It's going to be a little bit tricky to pull off a ranged kind of artillery-focused build here. But for Kislev, the idea is you need to kind of slow value push. Just focus on trading effectively and capture when and where you can. High Elves have brought a Bolt Thrower out in response. Going to counterfire those Little Groms a little bit, and White Lions already pushing their way up and around here. The Lyrian Reavers kind of get caught up in the woods, fighting against Tsar Guard Grey Weapons. Not exactly an ideal engagement for Tsar Guards, but they'll certainly be able to push back this light cavalry unit here in the woods. Hopefully be able to hold off some of these White Lion infantry as well. The Streltsy up on the high ground shooting down aren't doing too much damage yet. Meanwhile, in the center, there's no Swordmasters or White Lions to contest these Tsar Guards. They get into a position here to start grinding through these Spearmen and start to capture this objective as well. It's going to be definitely a wet noodle contest. Both these units have relatively low attack, but definitely the Tsar Guard have better defensive stats. Meanwhile, over here, Streltsy turning to fire. And Streltsy are such a cool unit as bolt thrower shots land there. And those White Lions going to take a few nasty volleys as they charge in. Missile resistance definitely coming into play significantly there. The Sun Dragon has mostly been chilling over here for most of the battle. Curemain Company and some Spearmen helping to control that side objective for the High Elves. Here comes the Dragon. I mean, I say control that objective. They're trying to control that objective. High Elves definitely have pretty decisive control over here as the Tsar Guard try and push through. And again, Streltsy kind of hang back. Looks like the High Elves are prioritizing microing the Dragon, ALARIELLE, and some of these other units at the cost of those White Lions being able to get on those Streltsy quickly. But the Sun Dragon, it's going to be a decent enough choice. It's not too expensive. Didn't get anything too crazy, but 70 armor is definitely more than I had before. I think it was, what, 50 armor before, 46, 44, decent weapon strength, 65 charge. Definitely very solid overall, and with that healing from ALARIELLE, we'll be able to sustain some great damage against those Streltsy, who would otherwise been trading reasonably well in melee. with support. These White Lions also going to pull away here, come back over to the objective, while the Zargard try and prevail. Looks like they've got some more Illyrian Reavers kind of piling in there, blocking them. So Kislev's not able to get at that objective. Over here, too, your main company and other units pushing them away. They've got some Shadow Warriors moving in on the objective. They'll be able to provide some nice capture weight. They are relatively expensive. Your main company, though, and again, the armor piercing, armor sundering also helps these other units trade pretty efficiently. And if this Snow Leopard gets caught out and soloed out here, it's going to have a really bad time. But right now, it's at least fighting with a degree of infantry support. Let's see the Streltsy continuing to hold out there. Another Snow Leopard comes into play and should be able to push back those Reavers relatively quickly. And again, as long as the Snow Leopards don't get fully surrounded, as long as those Streltsy can hang around there, they should do okay. But taking a look at a wider view once again, Little Groms are just kiting for the time being, having a hard time, but they eventually do rout off a lot of these overextended units. They're now going to be able to turn and fire on some high-value targets. They've got the Sun Dragon, got ALARIELLE, both of which are going to be very good targets to try and tee off on here. Meanwhile, some Streltsy sweep up and around this flank. The Zargard are starting to run out of steam a little bit as more White Lion infantry just kind of pile in there to drag them down, but doing okay. Sun Dragon gets back up into the air, maybe looking for a potential breath attack into the back of these Zargard. As the Streltsy continue to hold, we've got some Lothar Sea Guard, also an excellent pick here, especially against Kislev cavalry. Just in general, the combination of Sea Guard and White Lion infantry does make this a relatively tricky matchup for Kislev in many ways, but let's see. We've got some more Rangers coming in over here. The Shadow Walkers standing off of the objective, but eventually, I mean, the one Snow Leopard does get dealt with. We get some Griffin Legion coming through, though. Heart of Winter going to be cast as well to deal some nice AoE damage to the Elves. And, you know, this combination of resources, KATARIN coming over here casting the spells, and the Griffin Legion piling in is enough to push back the Pure Main Company and Spears. And they should be able to overrun into those Shadow Warriors. They're not Shadow Walkers, although they probably should be. In my opinion, now that High Elves have access to Shadow Walkers on their regular roster, you should be taking them consistently for poison missiles. Like, these guys could be traded out for Shadow Walkers. They've got greater range, greater melee capacity, and the poison is super, super important because Elves tend to be very squishy. Anything you can do to reduce your opponent's damage output, which obviously poison does considerably, will be quite helpful. Kislev, though, still trying to retake this side objective here. KATARIN standing on. Griffin Legion moving to massacre those Shadow Warriors. I do quite like the pick of the Griffin Legion here because of their higher stats over something like a Winged Lancer. They can punch through the martial prowess of the High Elves. High Elf artillery crew here also gets occupied by the Kossars. This is one of the things about Dire Blood that makes it so strong for light cavalry. These guys can come in, interrupt, do quite a bit of damage. They don't quite finish off the artillery before Dire Blood drops, but still they were able to come in and do quite a bit, whereas another, you know, different cavalry, even like Illyrian Reaver archers, would have routed off earlier. So anyway, Streltsy fighting here. Zargard with Griffin, some more regular Zargard moving in as well. Streltsy are trading okay against the Dragon, even in melee, given their stats. I mean, yeah, 29 is not incredible in terms of attack, but definitely in a surround, they can get some damage on this Sun Dragon. Not going to be super efficient, but let's see how they do. For the time being, Kislev has got decisive control over this side of the battlefield. Interestingly enough, I mean, the charge of the Griffin Legion initially was very good, but in sustained combat, the Shadow Warriors actually end up holding out a pretty considerable amount of time. Interestingly enough, it's, yeah, just due to that martial prowess now lasting a bit longer. You can see it's still active on them, given that they still have, you know, 25% of their unit models online at least. So pretty good stuff there. More Spearmen are going to come through, probably push those Griffin Legions back. Kislev's got to be able to respond. It looks like they are bringing in some Zargard here to defend this objective. Zargard also a pretty smart choice. Been seeing a little bit more Swordmasters lately, but I don't think they're super common in this matchup. And with the Streltsy and Little Groms to kind of screen for them, nice AoE damage from KATARIN as well. I do think that Kislev has the tools to deal with a couple of Swordmasters if they needed to. But definitely something to watch out for. Those Swordmasters mixed in with the Lions and Sea Guards and Spearmen can be pretty decisive, as we have seen. Here in the center, Horse Archers and Zargard can only do so much to hold back all these Silver Helms and Reavers. But Kislev slow pushing on the side. We'll go take a look at that in just a moment. High Elves versus Kislev. Very cool matchup. Very Two very flashy, similar-ish factions in many ways. Kislev does suffer from some cost inefficiency at times and just has generally not too many cheap units, which is absolutely a common high elf problem. But more Griffin Legion swooping in on the side here with the Snow Leopard coming in and getting some decisive hits. Look at this. Man, the Snow Leopard actually gets on ALARIELLE, starts frostbiting her, dealing significant damage, and despite her high defense, with martial prowess, she's got 67 defense on horseback, which is absolutely insane. It's not enough. KATARIN gets in here with the Snow Leopards, and together with the Griffin Legion, they're able to pretty decisively defeat ALARIELLE, and that's going to be huge. She's not even close to her healing cap yet, and still has quite a bit of healing left to do for the Sun Dragon, potentially as well. So getting rid of her now is going to be super important. Snow Leopard is going in pursuit now. I would call it hot pursuit, but it's in fact cold pursuit. But it looks like actually noping out back into the center objective because Elves are pushing. I mean, right now, Kislev still has a 2 objective control over here on the side. Zargard holding out just fine against Spearmen and Shadow Warriors here in the center. High Elf Cavalry does prevail eventually, but is going to start to pull away anyway, start to collapse on one of these side objectives. High Elves, of course, need to seize another objective. They do have some supporting White Lions and Rangers here, eventually in a position to push through, but man, those Griffin Legions getting on top of the Shadow Warriors, such a great value trade for them, certainly on that squishy elf skirmish. Love me some quality Griffin Legion play, and A-Move's bringing home the bacon with these guys right now. Out in the distance, the Sun Dragon lands, trying to get rid of those Zargard, help those White Lions prevail. We get a sneaky little capture there, but the issue, as we have discussed before, the Dragons are much better now. Certainly in land battles, they are absolutely a viable choice. Oh, and the Griffin Legion just silence that bolt thrower as well. But in general, in Domination, it's a little bit tricky to make them work. They have to get a lot of work done in order to pay for themselves. And here, although the Dragon has survived, it's probably got some pretty significant damage value. It's not going to be capturing that objective. Like the Zargard can just kind of keep it locked down there for quite some time. Meanwhile, Kislev Horse Archers swinging over. They might even drop a charge straight into these Rangers. Yep, looks like they're going to go for a melee engagement. Why not? Just provide the extra capture weight. Decent enough stats, too, charging into the back of a relatively squishy unit like Rangers. Get some pretty good value in that way. And Zargard also kind of turn around to counterattack. And although the High Elves are slowly ticking this objective, I mean, maybe they're not at all. The Horse Archers providing enough capture weight to just hold the objective for the time being. Same thing over here, although things are starting to look pretty grim. The one Zargard is continuing to hold out against the Dragon, Reavers, who've got Sea Guards, or Spearmen rather, and Rangers coming in. Gonna be a tough time for them to hold out, but the Griffin Legion approaches. Yes, in the distance there, you can see them intercepting the White Lions, the Pure Main Company Regiment of Renown there. Zoom it over for that charge. And Griffin Legions are getting pretty tired, so they're relatively slow on the charge animation. But actually, I don't even know. They don't actually have a charge order here, which is interesting. They're just moving to the objective. Some Horse Archers also moving to the objective here. Yeah, it looks like a little bit of a, a little bit of a troll job there, if you will, denying us our beautiful charge. But even still, they'll do an okay job in this engagement. I say that as they kind of weirdly pull away. I'm not sure. I guess they have a movement order to come over here. No idea what's going on there. But it was certainly enough. These forces brought in, the Horse Archers and whatnot, to see off the Sun Dragon. Got more Horse Archers piling in here. And it's just Kislev throwing resources to just desperately try and hold. The score is super close right now. Kislev just has to hang on to these objectives for a few more seconds to bring home the win. So this one over here looks relatively secure. KATARIN, Snow Leopard, Horse Archers. We've got plenty of Zargard there as well. Streltsy are threatening in the center, but it's unlikely they'll get the capture in. But let's keep things close. We'll keep the banner up. Keep all the health banners up, health bars and other stuff, I should say. And there it is. Kislev barely able to hold on to that objective. Definitely, if flying units had any capture weight, like even if they had very low capture weight, I think that might have turned around there at the end. It was pretty close. High Elves were definitely threatening that objective, but nice to see Kislev take home a win in this matchup. KATARIN contributing a lot of damage output with those Hearts of Winter. I didn't highlight them besides maybe a couple, but just very efficient damage from her. Great AoE damage spells in general, and her combat stats are also very solid. certainly in the direct matchup against ALARIELLE, we'll take a look at a direct comparison here in just a minute, but on horseback, she does have Frostbite, which seems to be pretty important. Legram, one does great, one does not. 225 kills on the decent one there. A couple of the Streltsy also do okay. Horse archers, generally a huge fan of. I'd probably take more of them here, honestly. And the Zargard perform pretty admirably. I'm impressed at how cost-effective the Zargard actually were. Again, High Elves didn't take any Swordmasters. The White Lions are sort of a soft counter. The Zargard are enough of an elite infantry that they can at least hold out against the White Lions for some time. As we saw there with support, even prevail on occasion. Streltsy, again, a couple of units doing pretty decently. And then the Griffin Legion, definitely a bright spot for me. Awesome to see them perform well here. Definitely a matchup that seems to favor sort of their advantages over regular Winged Lancers in a similar way that at times you would bring Reichsguard over regular Empire Knights in the past. Similar to that now with this situation. But anyway, Sun Dragon does a decent job. Can't really criticize too hard. It doesn't quite pay for itself. Spearmen and Archers and Lothran Seaguard and White Lions, I think, are the better way to go here. But Silverhelm's definitely a solid enough choice. Shadow Warriors also pretty decent. Although, again, I think Shadow Walkers are probably just a little bit better to do just a little bit more for you. Illyrian Reaver is super cost-effective as well. So it's a very interesting game. Very back and forth. But just in terms of a direct comparison between these two caster ladies, go ahead and skirmish versus AI here. And I drop in on the High Elves and compare to Kislev. So let's get both these ladies on horseback. We can take a look at the cost. So base cost with no spells here on the Warhorse, only 750 for the Tsarina. And for ALARIELLE on horseback, you're looking at 850. So she is 100 points more expensive. And in terms of base stats, I mean, you're looking already, Tsarina has Frostbite and 100 extra weapon strength, as well as having better base melee attack. Of course, ALARIELLE does get the benefit of martial prowess, which gives her just better overall attack defense stats, right? You gotta factor that +2, +12, so I guess not better attack even still, but definitely better defense up to that 67 melee defense. But Tsarina, same charge bonus, literally the exact same HP profile. Of course, Tsarina requires other characters to heal her, whereas ALARIELLE can definitely heal herself, although she's also kind of activating those resources. If she does use them on herself, she's not using them on other more important things, potentially, or she has to stay in the blob of the Star of Averlorn, right, in order to receive that healing. And anyway, it's a little bit interesting, whereas Tsarina is definitely more damage focused. She's got this pretty decent magic missile here. The Crystal Cloak also makes her very tanky while casting. Not to mention, I mean, of course, we're not really going too far into the other mount options, but ALARIELLE can fly, which is great. Tsarina can take an armor-piercing bear with 75 armor, which is also great, both in different ways. So it is an interesting comparison to see these two side by side. I think, obviously, ALARIELLE's healing just makes her more competitive overall in general, but Kislev does still have plenty of access to healing you can take alongside the Tsarina and be very effective. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Which of these two would you take? Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this one. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.